Welcome to the Creator's Toolkit.
I'm Yanni Blue from Bigger Than Our Dreams.
And I'm Mike Brown from The Art of Letting Go. This podcast series is inspired by our second annual Merch Madness contest, where we will be exploring entrepreneurship for creatives and community building in the digital era.
That's right. And in this season, we share our personal journeys of building brands and creating merch. We'll also be sitting down with fellow artists, branding experts, and fashion professionals, all while competing to see who sells the most merch in the month of March.
We're excited to dive into the tools, techniques, and strategies that can help you succeed as a creator in today's fast-paced world. So, welcome to the Creator's Toolkit. Welcome, everybody, to the Creator's Toolkit. This is episode 5 and our season finale. Can you believe we made it to the end of the season?
I can
too. I said that like it was a surprise, but we made it to the end of the season. And
that's all we got.
Man, how do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel just in creating something new? Like, I feel like we do a lot of new stuff, but this is like, you know, something completely new for both of us.
It feels good to put a cap on something because I know I have a tendency for projects to kind of get out of my control. So it felt really good to come into this with a vision and execute it. And I'm excited to revisit it down the line. How about you?
That's dope. I feel really good about it. You know, I've definitely had my own emotional journey with it, just because insert reason why I would have an emotional journey with a podcast.
You an emotional nigga.
I'm an emotional nigga, but I feel really good about doing this podcast. I feel like it's been so inspiring, and granted, I haven't had time to try out everything that everybody has given us. It's just been inspiring to like have those conversations, but then listen back to them, and then like, you know, just being in the journey. We've gotten some really dope, valuable conversations out of this, and
yeah,
I do like closing the season, but I also look forward to like when we do feel in alignment to restart it.
What are coming out of, I don't know, we have an interview today that people haven't heard yet, but just for those tapping in with us now, give us like 3 of your favorite takeaways so far.
3 of my favorite takeaways. So one of them is from this episode, which is to really shift your mindset from being an artist to an entrepreneur, because essentially that's what we are as creatives. Like, yes, I could be an artist all day, but I want to sell this shit. I want to sell my products. So it feels valuable to identify as an entrepreneur and not just an artist. I think that's why creative entrepreneur speaks to me so much. I think talking to TK about storytelling felt very valuable. Because I'm a storyteller, essentially. Like, you know, regardless of what medium I'm in, I'm always telling a story. And it does feel cringe for me to just outright sell you a product. So to be able to tell you a story that leads to this product, it feels good. And I would say, because, you know, and I'm only giving 3 because you asked me to give 3, because I do feel like every conversation that we had was valuable. But I would say Christoph and Ryan sharing with us, you know, just how they fulfill the need with their products. Like, that felt valuable to me as well, because it all felt in alignment with what I do and what I try to do. So, you know, those felt most important to me because they felt like they were putting me on, like keeping me on track, like keeping me focused on the mission at hand. So that's why those spoke to me. But what about you?
Things that spoke to me the most.
3
things that spoke to me the most. Shout out to Sad Boy. I didn't know that you could sell merch on Amazon, so I thought that was really cool to find out. And just hearing about his creative process, because we connect a lot on music, so it was just cool to see that our creative process with merch is very similar. We're very like-minded in practicality and in trying to funnel some of our inspiration from some of our favorite artists, but also still be intentional. So that was dope. She's Ryan spoke to me a lot in giving us the TikTok hack, but also just speaking about how she took the time to prioritize her mental health and getting to a place with her art where she felt healthy, and then created products from that space. And then Christoph spoke to me a lot in the sense of I can be very practical when it comes to my creativity, and it's just great to see somebody thriving in just, really A and B of, like, poets need a uniform. I need to, like, he was very, it was very clear of just like, I'm doing this thing around poetry and I love poetry, but also I'm trying to run a business and poets need a uniform. And sometimes it's that simple and sometimes it's deeper than the earth. But I think getting all those perspectives, you only asked me for three, but I think my overall theme for the things that I got was that I took from this pod was validation that my thought process is valid. Sometimes I feel like I'm thinking about things too literal, or maybe I'm too emotional, and it's just good to see people try it all out and be successful. So
That's dope. I'm curious to know, what is the Yanni Blue tip that you want to give on our season finale, because we've gotten so much inspiration from other creatives, but I don't know if we've given our own. So what would Yanni Blue give?
I mean, the tip I give always, and the tip that I try to live my life by with whatever you do, tangible or intangible, is what is the why. I think you start there. Start with why. Shout out to Simon Sinek. He doesn't sponsor this podcast, but his book Start with Why. I really think you should start with why, because when you have a very clear intention of why you want to do something, the what is easy. With Ryan, she's very clear about just trying to help other artists avoid the pitfalls that she went through pursuing a career in music. And that was the why. So the what was a dopamine journal. It was courses, it was different things that she's doing. Like, it makes a lot of sense. So whatever it is you want to do, whatever the what is, figure out your why and then see if it still connects to that what. But really take time to, like, write a mission statement, and then I think everything you want to sell from there should connect to that. What about you?
That's dope.
What's the Mike Brown tip?
The Mike Brown tip is don't be afraid to go for this shit. Like, don't let nothing stop you, not even yourself, because I know us as creatives, we can get in our own way with this perfectionist bullshit. Release that shit, and going back to the storytelling, let people buy into the story of your shit. And I think people have seen me podcast for so long, going from the phone to going to studios. Like, you get to experience the level up with this shit. So, like, really sell your story to people and they will buy into it. But overall, just don't let nothing stop you from going for what you feel like you want.
This week's guest is Jeremiah Marquez, a visionary graphic designer, business strategist, and the creative mind behind Ascension. Jeremiah's connection with Mike Brown through Careless, a hip-hop album filled with affirmations, sparked a dialogue on transitioning your mindset from artist to entrepreneur. In this episode, we delve into Jeremiah's insight on blending creativity and business and how he's redefined the entrepreneurial landscape.
So, Jeremiah, I was checking out your website, and I wanted to know, how has your experience been with selling merch?
That is a beautiful question, Mike. My experience with selling merch has not been as optimal as I really have wanted it to be. When I first got into entrepreneurship and started my business Ascension, I had been in a place where I was selling prints just at like pop-ups, things like that. And I wanted to take advantage of the power of the internet. But since really establishing that, I have had a really big focus on client work and supporting people in that regard. So if I am being transparent, I haven't put too much I haven't given it too much attention.
Do you feel like the lack of attention towards it comes from a place of, like, maybe just realizing some of the hurdles that come with selling your own merch, or just because you've been busier with other stuff? Because that's something that's been coming up for us, and just curious how other people are navigating that initial hump of, like, trying to sell merch.
Yeah, I think that it's been a combination of things. I think the biggest thing is I find myself being able to support my clients, and I was actually just talking about this in a call like a while ago, where it's really easy for me to say like, these are the steps that I need to take in order for this launch to happen, or for me to market, or whatever it is. um, so I think that from that perspective, it's sometimes challenging for me to be clear on what exactly it is I need to be doing when it comes to like selling merch, things like that. And with my marketing background, I know what to do. It's not like a lack of knowledge. It's more so like, um, where do I start? And also, I think a bigger component is like this fear of, and Mike and I talk about this a lot, is like this fear that um, I have of not being able to support myself in my own art. You know what I mean? So I put attention on a lot of other things, such as client work, and not really giving it the time and attention that it deserves. And that's something that I'm working on, um, just unlocking within myself, you know?
I appreciate how transparent you are in that, only because like you said, you have the knowledge base, so it's not like you're starting completely from scratch. But even with the knowledge base, you are in real time encountering the hurdles and the different roadblocks and figuring them out. And that's something that Mike and I have kind of experienced this year with our Merch Madness campaign, because last year felt super successful, and this year we felt a little bit more stifled for different reasons. As somebody who's as intentional like with their language as you are, because every time I interact with you, you are very intentional with the things that you say and how you speak. How much of that intention goes into the types of designs that you make?
Well, as I was like reflecting on, you know, being a part of this conversation, I wanted to just kind of like lay out a foundation real quick about intentionality, and the difference between art and design. Because I want to make a differentiation of the difference, because for me, art, I think, is more of a place of like personal expression, whereas design is pure intentionality, and it's deliberate decision making, um, made for specific people, right? And I think, um, from what you're seeing on my website, like a lot of those designs are catered to. It wasn't from a place of intentionality, as far as more so than it was of um, expression in that point of time. Does that make sense? But when it comes to me being intentional about like, okay, I'm going to, when I'm working with clients, I'm very clear about who I'm wanting them to connect with, or uncovering that. And I think that that's a piece um, of intentionality when it comes to creating something.
I love that. Well, okay, so based on that definition, based on how you compartmentalize the two, do you feel like the merch or the things that you create for public consumption, are they an extension of your art still, or do they kind of fall into that duality that you said, like certain things are more intentional versus certain things are more creative?
Yeah. I find myself, as like an adolescent, being a creative individual, a person who just wanted to create for the sake of creating, right? And I think that as I honed in and developed my skills, there was more of me walking into this identity beyond an artist and into design, and moving a lot more in intention and decision making, and why I'm crafting something. So I find myself in between both of those, so like, I think when it comes to my personal art and expression, I identify as an artist. But when I step into the design role, and I'm designing something for a particular person, or people, or someone in mind, then I take that into consideration in what I'm creating.
Hey friends, if you like any of the music that you hear in the background of this show, more than likely Mike and I are attached to it. So when you get a chance, when you're done listening to this amazing episode and you're feeling inspired to go out and tackle the world as a creative entrepreneur, there is a playlist special for you. Check out the official Creators Toolkit podcast playlist featuring music that you've heard throughout the show, as well as some other records that are keeping us inspired, motivated to get out there and hustle. We got Can't Compete remix featuring She's Ryan. We got some records from Sad Boy Music. Just all of our guests are really talented and dope, and we found a way to kind of boil everybody into this playlist. So check it the fuck out. Go sell some merch.
Okay, so kind of going back to what you were saying about you've been focused more on your business than your merch. I wanted to know, was that intentional? And if not, what is it that holds you back from promoting your merch and your art as much as you do your business?
Yeah. I would say that it is to a certain degree intentional because I'm in a way I feel like I'm building two things, right? Like, when I work on things, I like to prioritize things over the other. And I feel like in this season of building a business and generating revenue, I've been um, seeking to support others and guide others with their own projects and marketing tasks, things like that. But that isn't to say that like I feel like there's a deep desire for myself to do that within my own business for myself. So I think that that's the second part of your question was like, what's holding me back? Um, I really feel like there. I mean, we've talked about this in our own private conversations before, but just kind of moving out from a place of operating in survival mode and rather than like operating from a place of creation. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm working as far as like an identity shift and like really trying to get rid of like, okay, like my work is valuable, like this is um it 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 can be both, and moving past that place of survival into that place of creation.
Um, how much does nurturing your creative affect your business?
It has a direct correlation to my business. I find that if I am not nurturing my creative, then I see an impact in how that correlates with business, particularly like revenue and being able to connect with others and network. And I see creativity as like the nurturing of creativity is a form of self love, and I I see it beyond just a form of expression. I see it as a form of emotional management and processing. Um, so yeah, direct correlation.
And I got one more question for you. What advice can you share with creatives to be better business people?
The advice that I would share with creatives to be better business people is to move from being an artist into being an owner, and an owner and entrepreneur. And I think I differentiate the two of those because I think it takes a certain level of dedication and commitment and um, a resilience that I think that um, comes from the identity of being an entrepreneur or a business owner, and um, beyond just focusing on your craft, I think it's important for us to not have a master's degree in business or anything like that, but have a solid understanding of the fundamentals of business, just so when you get into spaces you can speak from a place to other business owners. I think that understanding is really important.
Actually, can I ask one more question? And we might have kind of answered it, but I want to make sure I'm asking it specifically just so we get the answer because I know that you do have a design background and stuff. It kind of in the same pocket of the last question, giving advice, just because that's come up for us a lot. Certain artists who maybe want to get into merchandising or just selling things outside of intangible things like music. What are some design advice that you would give them? Like as far as like for myself, I have been going through this merch designing journey, creating shirts and figuring things out. So what are like tools that you would give somebody who's trying to like figure out a good shirt design or a good book cover design?
hmm Well, I would say, so like going back to intentionality and design and creating with purpose, um, it, I would say that it's, you know, in my own process, there's a specific framework that I follow that allows me to get clear on one, what it is I'm doing, and two, who I'm looking to serve and connect with. And from that point, when I can view from that lens, then I can uh, look at other people who are doing something similar, where I can use that as a frame of reference. Like, oh, I see maybe this type of design being successful. Using that as a point of reference to innovate from, because that is what's resonating with people right now, and using that to expand and evolve with. So I think from a more like conceptual place, I think I would say that. Um, but from like a tool space, I would really say like either if you're doing these, if you're or let me say this, invest, either invest in someone to create the designs for you, or invest in software that allows you to create, whether that's Adobe Express or Canva or whatever medium you want to channel that through. So investing in yourself and your business. And I think that's the difference. That's what I mean, like stepping from being an artist and that identity into like, okay, let me see how I can um, have a return on investment from what I'm creating.
If there's anything that you take away from this episode, let it be to shift your mindset from artist to entrepreneur. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for being on this episode this week. And everybody, we've reached the season finale. So go back, listen to the podcast, share with your friends, and go out and be successful on your entrepreneurial journeys. We appreciate you so much for taking this ride with us, and we look forward to seeing you on the other side. This has been the Creator's Toolkit. Peace.